This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome back to the Special Chronicles Show. My name is Daniel Spakowski, and I'm the founder of Special Chronicles, a Special Olympics Southern Striver International Global Messenger, and a service ambassador at United Airlines in Chicago. This is episode 492 and season 3, part 9 of Unified at Work, which is our original series featuring conversations about the meaning of inclusive employment. And the Unified at Work series is sponsored by Bridge, which is one of United's business resource groups that is connecting people of all abilities. You can book your travel today at united.com or on the award-winning United app. And specialchronicles.com for links to follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And please go to our Instagram and Facebook pages and Twitter and leave your comments there, and we look forward to hearing from you. And please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to watch the video live stream video episode, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and don't forget to sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. It's specialchronicles.com for links to subscribe and follow our guest this week on the Special Chronicles Show. And our Unified at Work series is Christie Hanson from United's Houston hub. And Christie is another Special Olympics Service ambassador. So please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Christie to the Special Chronicles Show and our Unified at Work series. Welcome, Christie.
Thank you, Daniel.
It's good to have you on the show. I know you and your fellow Houston SOSAs have been looking forward to being on this podcast. And we should let all of you listening, if you're just tuning in to this episode, we should let you know that if we say anytime throughout this episode, if we say SOSA, we mean Special Olympics Service Ambassador. And if you are just tuning into this episode, go back to the past few weeks and listen to Christie's colleagues, the other Houston SOSAs, on this Unified at Work series on the Special Chronicles Show. So go back to listen to this. So I'm sure, Christie, if we have any listeners that are tuning in from Houston, Texas, or anywhere in Texas, and they're involved in Special Olympics, or even United Airlines, they might already know you. But for any new listeners, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what disability you were diagnosed with. You were in Special Olympics movement, what state you're from, and what job you have here at United Airlines.
Okay. My name is Christie Hanson. I'm 37 years old. I was diagnosed with ADD, which is short for Attention Deficit Disorder, since I was a little girl. I'm a Special Olympics athlete from Special Olympics Texas Area 4. I'm also a service ambassador for United Airlines.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into much more of your story in Special Olympics and as well as United Airlines after the break. Our guest is Christie Hanson with Chicago's Houston hub, and we'll be right back after this short break on specialchronicles.com. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to learn how you can become a Special Chronicles supporter so we can continue to produce this podcast. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. And now, back to the show to continue the conversation today. And back to the show. You're listening to the Special Chronicles show. This is episode 492. And I know we're quickly approaching the 500th episode coming up here in just a couple months. This is season 3, part 9 of our Unified at Work series. And our guest is Christie Hanson from United's Houston Hub. So, Christie, as we begin to talk about your experiences in Special Olympics, and if our listeners have been listening for a while, or at least have been listening to this Unified at Work series, then our listeners will know that all you and mine and the other SOSAs, all experiences in Special Olympics is the foundation to what we're able to do off the field, including having this inclusive, this unified employment opportunity at United Airlines. So to kind of set the tone for your story, set the foundation for your story, let's begin and take our listeners back to and share with us how you first got involved in Special Olympics.
I first got involved in Special Olympics during my school days at Briarwood School, which is a school for teaching students with learning and intellectual disabilities. I was 8 years old when I first became an athlete.
Neat. And speaking of your early years, tell us a little bit more about your early years. What were some of the challenges, but then also some of the joys and accomplishments because of your disability?
The most challenging thing for me early on was trying to stick to the training and figuring out what sports interested me more. And that took years, let me tell you.
Awesome.
The biggest joy for me was winning the medals, even if it wasn't a gold. I was just happy to be rewarded for something. The second biggest joy was when I won Female Athlete of the Year a while back.
Awesome. And the two things that I want to note on that you said, one thing is you said about just being awarded that even if you didn't get the gold medal, that just being awarded, you enjoyed competing, and I think that speaks a lot to our Special Olympics athlete oath, let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. If our listeners have been listening to this podcast for any of our over 400 episodes the past 14 years, and we've featured other Special Olympics athletes on this program, you will know that I think that we all kind of share that in common, that it doesn't matter if we get a gold medal. It just matters that you know try your best and that you love competing. And then the other thing you mentioned about the sports, so that's a good transition to have you share with us about tell us about the sports that you compete in Special Olympics.
I'm currently competing in volleyball and tennis with the Houston Hotshots. In the past, I competed in soccer, volleyball, basketball, and track and field.
Awesome. And if you were to, I know it might be hard to pick a favorite, but if you were to pick a favorite, what would be your favorite?
It would be tennis.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't competed in tennis. I've competed in swimming and basketball, and hopefully unified bocce soon. But yeah, it seems like tennis is a pretty fun sport. How did you first get started in our athlete leadership programs?
I never really got involved in the leadership programs, so no comment.
Okay, but I'm sure even though you haven't officially got involved in the leadership programs, I'm sure even having this job as a Special Olympic Service Ambassador at United Airlines, you'll you as a Special Olympic Service Ambassador at United Airlines, you are a leader for other athletes in Texas and other athletes across the country and globe of what is possible to have a job at a major airline. Right?
Oh, I guess this would count as my first leadership program.
Yeah. So this job is your first leadership program. So awesome. We're gonna go and take another short break. When we come back, we will get into all about your job at United Airlines as a Special Olympic Service Ambassador, and we'll kind of in the next segment we'll have you take our listeners through your entire journey coming to United and kind of share that story of coming to United and showing us a little bit more about your experience of working at United Airlines in Houston at the Houston hub. So our conversation with Christie Hanson from Special Olympic Service Ambassador from United Airlines in Houston will continue after the break right here on specialchronicles.com, and we will be right back after this short break message from our sponsor right here on specialchronicles.com.
Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they're literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd.
Guest on the Special Chronicles show this week on this episode 482, not 92. What number did I say? I think I'm mixing up the episode numbers. This is, did I say it right at the top of the episode? I think I did. This is episode, did I say 492, Christy? 492? I think I said that. Yeah. And I think that's what I sent you to. Yeah, this is episode 492 of the Special Chronicles show.
It's actually 488.
Oh, okay. You know what? I think I have, in the pre-production, so we're going to just let the fourth wall down a little bit. I've kind of changed the order of the guests for this series a little bit. So I've kind of changed your episode numbers around a little bit. So it is actually 492 that you will be on this episode. And this is season 3, part 9 of our Unified at Work series. And so now this is the point of the episode where we're going to talk and take a listener through your job at United Airlines. If a listeners have been listening to this Unified at Work series for the past 3 years, you will know 3 years ago, the Special Olympic Service Ambassador program at United Airlines first started in Chicago with hiring 4 of us, myself, and then 3 others. So those 4 of us original service ambassadors in Chicago. And then 2 years later, so about a year ago, because we're coming up on your 1 year anniversary at United, a year ago, the Special Olympic Service Ambassador program expanded to Denver as well as Houston. And so you started about a year ago, like I just said, and share with us how you first heard about this job at United Airlines as a Special Olympic Service Ambassador. How did you first hear about this new inclusive employment opportunity?
My team coach, Lisa Ward, emailed my mom around this time last year, and we both thought it was a good opportunity for me to get a new job since I was let go from my last job during the pandemic. I went into it thinking I had a 50-50 shot at landing it.
And you said you had a 50-50 chance of landing it, and well, now since you are on this podcast, you now have been on the job for about a year or so. You got it, and just being a guest on this podcast doesn't mean that. We'll tell our listeners, being a guest on this podcast, on the Special Chronicles show and a Unified at Work series, doesn't mean that you will get a job at United Airlines. It doesn't guarantee that you will get a job, but we are kind of chronicling in all since there's not that many of us Special Olympics athletes that get to work at United Airlines, we're kind of chronicling all of our stories. So people can kind of hear about our experience of what it's like to have this. It's a really unique job because it's not like any other job that we have probably had in the past. So let's continue this story of unified employment and take a listen through the next step. So you just shared about how you first heard about this job. What was the next step? Did you go in for an interview, or what was the next step after you got the job description and you were told about this Special Olympic Service Ambassador job at United Airlines?
After we took a tour of the airport, and I went in for the interview, I admit I was nervous, but I was really happy when they came to me and told me that I was hired for the job.
Awesome. So you just to recap, you went in for a tour. Was that part of like a job shadow day where you got to shadow some of the United employees in Houston? Did you do that?
It was more like getting to know where we were going to work and meeting all of the employees, meeting most of the current employees there.
And that was after the interview? You said you went on it?
It was before the interview. It
was before, so you first got a tour, and then you had the interview, and then you were told that you got the job?
Yes.
All right. So then after you were told that you had a job, what was the next step? Was it did you attend a welcome event, or what was the next step?
We did have a welcome party, which I met you and the other ambassadors over in Chicago.
Awesome. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that experience at the welcome event, because you got a chance to meet myself and the other, as it's kind of known at United that we in Chicago, we are the OG, we are the original Special Olympic Service Ambassadors. So tell us about that experience of meeting us. And
it was a huge honor meeting you guys. It was a lot of fun. I liked hearing about your experiences and hope that we can hang out with you guys again in the future.
Yeah, I know. I hope we can. It'll be nice to hang out with you guys again, as well as the SOSAs in Denver as well. If anybody from Bridge or United Airlines is tuning in, we should mention to them on this episode that we would love to have a SOSA meetup. I know that's something that has been talked about. I don't know if that if an in-person meetup is totally possible this year, but hopefully maybe we can try to see if we can kind of talk our way through how we could make an in-person meetup possible. And because it would be fun to all meet up again. So after that welcome event, what was the next step? Did you go through some training for a few months? And again, just to let our listeners know the kind of timeline, that welcome event happened in October 2021. So after that, share with us what happened after the welcome event.
Well, the first few months I was working at United. I did do some training.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it was like was on the job. But the rest of it was online training, and that went really well. I liked having my mentors showing me around the airport and teaching me how to do things and so on, stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, and I'm sure that I'm sure that training it probably really helped you over the first few months. And now, for our listeners, we'll be recording this in the middle of August 2022, but you will all hear this towards in September, the middle or end of I believe the end of September 2022 was when this episode will drop. When you all hear this, or depending on whenever you listen to this. So we're coming up on your 1 year anniversary at United. So now after that training, and now that we're coming up on your 1 year anniversary, looking at United Airlines, again, as a Special Olympic Service Ambassador, tell us a little bit about your kind of everyday experience when you come in. What do you do on the job, and tell us a little bit about that experience of now that you've had your training, and now that we're coming up on your 1 year anniversary. What do you do on the job?
I direct customers to the kiosks and help tag their bags, basically give them directions to their gates or where the nearest bathrooms are or the baggage claim. And on occasion, I would work the Special Olympics Service Ambassador chair charge and also help restock supply trays for like the unaccompanied minors or if there are airplane delays and so on.
Awesome. I know a couple of your other colleagues in Houston have talked about that kill count, and that's not something that we do here in Chicago. But if any of my supervisors in Chicago are listening, supervisors and managers are listening to this episode of this series, that's I think that's something that can be really helpful. But I'm sure a lot of the help, and I know from being a SOSA, from being a Special Olympic Service Ambassador in Chicago, that what we do is really helpful for the passengers. It's really helpful for the customers who fly on United Airlines. And speaking of that, what do you I had a question and I lost my train of thought here. But so when you totally blanked there. But share with me, maybe you'll come back to me talk about this next part, but what do you enjoy most about your job as a service ambassador at United Airlines?
I feel good, like I'm gaining work experience. I'm learning what is and isn't acceptable behavior or responses. And I know that if I needed anything, I could always go to my supervisors. And I'll be honest, some days it does get busy in the airport, especially right now since it's summer, but I am glad I took a chance on doing this, on getting this job.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm sure everybody at United is glad that you took it, because I know it's something that I've said before when people have asked me about working at United Airlines, and I know some people at Bridge and other people at United have taken note on this, is that this job as a service ambassador at United Airlines is, yes, it is new, and it's not something that I know it's not something that I thought would be possible. And for myself, and I'm sure you will probably agree, because like growing up in school in either the job skills type classes and what a lot of the jobs that for those of us Special Olympics athletes, people with intellectual disabilities, looking at a major airline is not a job that somebody would think that we would be able to do.
Right.
And so we're already showing what's possible, but it's, thanks to the global partnership with Special Olympics and United Airlines partnering together, they really created this opportunity that hopefully can continue to, hopefully this program can continue to expand to give more opportunities as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're teaching the younger generations that this is stuff that just because we're wired differently from everyone else, it doesn't mean that we can't hold a full-time incoming, a full-time major job.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, John, what I was gonna. I remember. So if just to kind of wrap up this segment before we get to the final segment and the final question, if you were to sum up a job at United Airlines as a service ambassador, and first I'll kind of share it, and then I'll see if you agree, or I'll see if maybe you would sum it up differently or the same. But our job as a service ambassador is basically as assistants. So we'll assist in the customer service agents at United Airlines, will assist in the, sometimes we'll even assist in the supervisors and managers, but we'll really assist, we're like assistants to the customer service agents at United Airlines that work at the airport. Is that the way that you would describe a job, or kind of if you were to kind of sum up a job as a service ambassador at United Airlines, how would you sum up?
I would say that's about right. We're like assistants to the customer service representatives.
Awesome. I don't know if anybody at United Airlines had ever thought of that as a way to sum up our job. But if you're listening to this podcast, then you kind of got a little bit of a unique way to look at our jobs. We're going to go ahead and in just about a minute take our final sponsor break. When we come back, Christy, we'll get into some plugs of we'll let people know how they can get involved in Special Olympics, as well as how they can book the travel on United Airlines. And then we'll get to a final question we always conclude these conversations with. You probably saw what the final question was when you looked at the show notes before, but we'll get to that final question after this final break. This is episode 492 And Season 3, Part 9 of our Unified at Work series. Our guest is Christie Hanson from United's Houston hub. And we are going to conclude this conversation after this final break right here on SpecialChronicles.com. We will be right back.
Friends, podcast listener friends, I'd like to take a brief moment to let you know about how awesome StreamYard is. StreamYard is the easiest way to create professional live streams. StreamYard is a live streaming studio in your browser. Interview guests, share your screen, and much more. Stream directly to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other platforms. Sign up for StreamYard and get $10 in credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. You see the link right below on the screen here, and also will be in the show notes in the description below. But all of us at Special Chronicles, we love StreamYard. I've got a coffee mug I'm drinking coffee out of. Got a t-shirt on. I've got a sweatshirt. This StreamYard Puddles plush duck. Puddles the duck here in the studio, and just really love it. Makes really love StreamYard. It makes it easy to connect with guests. Just send guests the link to join StreamYard, and easily have a professional logo and banners and graphics, and it just makes it easy to pre-record, to live stream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Really love StreamYard. It's helped to make the audio podcasts and the video versions of the audio podcasts that I've been doing for the past 13 years. It's helped to make the video versions up to the next level, to a more professional level, while also making it easy to live stream. So all of us at Special Chronicles love StreamYard. Once again, if you want to sign up with StreamYard, specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard to sign up and get $10 in credit with our referral link. I hope you all will sign up for StreamYard, and happy live streaming. And until then, sign up for StreamYard and get $10 in credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. And now back to the show. You're listening to the Special Chronicles Show. This is episode 492, and this is season 3, part 9 of our Unified at Work series. We're talking with Christie Hanson from United's Houston hub. And Christie, before we get to the final question, we'll let our listeners know how can they get involved in Special Olympics Texas. For those listening, if you just listen to the audio podcast, go check out the video on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, and you can watch us and you see some of the links that we're putting up on the screen. But Christie, if someone wants to get in, if they are tuning in right now and they are tuning in from Houston or anywhere in Texas and they want to get involved in Special Olympics Texas, how can they get involved?
Everyone can learn more about Special Olympics Texas through their website at www.sotx.org.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to include all these links in the show notes on specialchronicles.com for episode 492. So just look down wherever you're listening to this episode. Again, it's SOTX.org. And if you don't live in Texas, you live anywhere else in the U.S. or across the globe, and you want to connect and get involved in your local Special Olympics program, you can visit specialolympics.org. That's specialolympics.org, and find your local Special Olympics program to get involved in. It makes a great impact on athletes like Christie and myself, and the oval, I should know this, the oval 6 million, the millions of other Special Olympics athletes across the globe. And again, the Unified at Work series is sponsored by Bridge, which is one of United's business resource groups that is connecting people of all abilities. You can book your travel today at united.com or on the award-winning United app. And Christie and I, since we are service ambassadors at United, we're kind of paid to say that. But again, by Bridge and United Airlines sponsoring this Unified at Work series on Special Chronicles, we are doubly paid to say that, where you can, if you are traveling, remember to book your travel today at united.com or on the award-winning United app, and we will include links to our sponsor in the show notes for this episode on specialchronicles.com. And if you want to listen to more conversations about the meaning of inclusive employment, you can listen to our Unified at Work series at specialchronicles.com/unified at work. That's specialchronicles.com/unified at work. And you can hear more conversations about the meaning of inclusive employment. And if you want to meet more of United's, sorry about that. I'm getting a phone call.
It's all right.
I'm getting a phone call from my mom, but I will call her back later after the show. So if you want, what I was saying was, if you want to listen to more conversations with United's SOSAs, United Special Olympics service ambassadors like Christie, her colleagues in Houston, as well as the SOSAs in Denver, and as well as the OG, us original SOSAs in Chicago. We have a playlist that you can listen. You can listen to this playlist on Special Chronicles or listen to this playlist on Spotify. And you can find that playlist at specialchronicles.com/meet SOSAs. That's specialchronicles.com/meet SOSAS. So we'll include links to that playlist on the show notes for this episode. And before we get to that final question, and as we come to a close, Christie, do you have any final thoughts on your overall time today on the Special Chronicles show that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Overall, I enjoyed being on the show. Thank you for having me on, Daniel. I hope that we can do this again.
Yeah, I hope that we can have you back on the podcast, and maybe hopefully we can even do a live podcast in person. I should have thought of this idea a couple months ago, but maybe we can think of it in the future. But I was thinking it would have been fun to do this podcast in person, where I would fly down to Houston and do this podcast in person. That's what we probably should have tried to figure out how to plan, because as I'm sure a lot of our listeners know, you and myself and the other service ambassadors, we all have travel benefits, right? We can all fly on standby on United Airlines. So, but maybe we can see if we do have some type of meetup in person with all the other SOSAs, maybe we can do like a live podcast with all of us SOSAs, us OG SOSAs in Chicago, and then you guys in Houston and the SOSAs in Denver, because that would be a lot of fun.
Yes, it would.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and as we to introduce this final question, we've got a bumper. So let's go ahead and roll that bumper.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference. Our demands are
equality,
dignity,
and the recognition of our
shared humanity.
We will not stop or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
And Christie, I'm sure, as you know, and so if our listeners have been listening to this podcast for the past 2 years, you know that inclusion is a big part of Special Olympics. It's also a big part here at Special Chronicles, and inclusion, especially with our unified employment at United Airlines, inclusion is a big part at United Airlines as well. So for the past few years, ever since coming back from Abu Dhabi, from the Abu Dhabi World Games, I've been concluding all these conversations, all these podcast episodes with a final question, and I'll conclude with you as well, Christie, and ask you what does inclusion mean to you?
For me, inclusion means being accepted in a group, no matter your disability. To think that we're being given opportunities like these to set good examples for future generations makes me happy.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode. And just want to remind all of you listening, specialchronicles.com for links to follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and join in the conversation there. And also remember to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, Special Chronicles, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star rating, so you never miss a new episode. New episodes drop every Monday. And if you subscribe, then you won't miss a new episode. And you can go back and listen to our archives of over 400 episodes as well. If you want to watch the video episodes, if you want to see Christie and myself and the guests side by side, you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube to watch the live stream video episodes. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content. Again, specialchronicles.com for links to subscribe and follow. Well, Christie, thanks again for coming on this podcast, and we will be back next week. As we conclude next week, we will be concluding season 3 of our Unified at Work series with, I believe, David Thomas is one of your colleagues in Houston is coming up.
That's right.
He will be a guest next week on this as we conclude. It will be the season 3 finale of our Unified at Work series on Special Chronicles show. But the podcast doesn't stop next week. We will have new episodes again every Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time. And so don't forget to subscribe. And on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, don't forget to subscribe. And we'll see you next week right here on specialchronicles.com. And until then, have a great week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Shows podcast. Visit specialchronicles.com to follow Special Chronicles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified of new episodes. Also, subscribe to our newsletter mailing list to sign up for our updates and get exclusive content delivered to your inbox. Remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Subscribe or follow and rate and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts. Finally, please share this episode and all of our podcasts with your friends and family. Help us grow our audience and reach 5,000 downloads of our audio podcasts and over 14,000 average monthly listeners. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week with exciting new guests. See you next week.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.